Happy birthday, Gemma!
Well, not when it comes out, is it? That's tomorrow. What are you on about? Let's do that again. Hello, Gemma.
Hello, Gemma.
Hello. Let's get straight to it, shall we? And ask you, when did you join SIYT?
So I joined in 2009 when I was at the start of year 11, so I was one of the older ones to start. I thought about it for a few years before, but I didn't know why I didn't audition. I just kind of thought like, oh, I don't know, probably won't get in, or don't really know if I want to do it. And then I was really good friends with Charlie Lake at school, and he pretty much coerced me into doing it.
Oh.
But in a good way, because I think like I needed someone to like give me a push to go for it. And then it all worked out.
And normally I ask people what their favourite show is, but everyone knows what your favourite show is. So why is Eyam your favourite show?
So it's funny actually. I didn't really do that many shows. I wasn't in that many shows for the amount of time that I was there. So that narrows the pool that I have to choose from anyway. But with Eyam, like I don't know, a lot of shows that I've done before, both with this or like at school and things like that, I'd always been in quite small parts, or like, which is fine. It's still like fun to be part of it. But then when I got cast in Eyam and had like one of the bigger like roles, I think I was a bit like, oh, like okay, like someone's given me a shot, like okay, let's do this. And then it just gave me a bit of a confidence boost as well to like think like, oh, okay, maybe I can do it. And sounds like a bit sad, but I'm like a big sucker for a true story. Like, you know, when you watch a film or a TV show and they're like based on a true story, like it could be the worst story, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in. I love it. So I think that was that element of Eyam. Like, I just found it really interesting, like that it was real. Like you're playing the part of these characters, but they're actually like real people. That is what happened to them. I don't think I'd ever been on stage so much, and I was preset on stage when the audience came in as well. So I was sat on stage for 20 minutes and then straight into act one, and I think I was off stage for like one scene in the whole first act or something. And also from like the music perspective and like the songs, like I'd never, you know, you sing like in your bedroom, did karaoke with your mates, sing song on the old PlayStation, but I'd never like sang in front of people. So when we did like the music rehearsals and just to like actually have someone give you proper guidance on like how to use your voice and how not to strain it and how to do the harmonies, I was a bit like, oh, this is all like new, interesting. Like that 5-part quintet harmony, Peter, you'll remember it well.
Oh yeah.
It was like mind blowing.
Yeah. I was going to say that's one of the pinpoint things that lots of people think about when they talk about Eyam is that the quintet that we had to learn. That was quite challenging for, you know.
I'm still not sure that I sang the right part.
I'll be honest, I don't think any of us really were that sure.
I don't know what was going on. Like I have the DVD and I've watched it a few times, and when I hear it back I'm like, no, something's not right. Like somebody's not right there, but like it was so hard.
People have no idea what Eyam's about, and because a few people have mentioned quintet and the songs in it.
So there were the quintet, five of us, in kind of this like love. We were like the lovers.
I love Pentagon, if you will.
I love Pentagon, if you will. So there was Peter, you were with Ellie, so that you two were like coupled up, like no one else was going there. That was fine. And then there was
that's true.
me and Nick, but then there was also Tom. So that was like a little love triangle on the side. And yes, we had this very softly song about faces being the face of an angel.
Yeah.
How much we loved each other. But yeah, we had like a 5-part harmony where we were sort of all singing to each other, and it was just very hard.
Really difficult to get this belong note that was Yeah, was definitely like some flat or I don't know.
I remember Ellie had like a really, like hers was really high,
Yeah.
like really unnaturally high, and then mine was really low. And we were
Yeah.
just like, why? Like, why can we not be somewhere in the middle of this?
Yeah.
Like, just one extreme or the other.
Yeah, it was but you know what, it was I mean, we had a good laugh like trying to learn it. You know, that was and for, in that respect it was really good.
It always makes me laugh because when you talk to everyone, they're like, "Oh, it was so much fun! Like we had the best time," and you're like, "Oh, what was it about?" Like death.
Yeah. Describing it to a modern audience easily now would be think of the coronavirus, the lockdown, and like make a musical about that. Like that's what it's about. Think about, you know, had they have had Zoom back in the day, Roland and Emma, you know, they could have, you know, could have kept it going, but from a safe distance. Whereas,
You would
you
have
know,
had to come up to that stone every day, wondering if she was alive.
that's such a good point. I hadn't thought about that before, but like Emmett totally broke lockdown. Ellie's character just broke lockdown all the time.
Gemma, what are your favourite moments?
I was thinking about this the other day, and there's one that I never would have thought would be a favourite moment at the time, but thinking back on it, so this involves you, Peter, quite a lot.
Okay.
So with the cabarets, obviously lots of fun, we've got a lot of like license, kind of go a bit wild and do what we want, but I was terrified of being called up to do the improvs, like actually terrified. And I'd always got away with it. And on my last one, I just had this feeling. I was like, it's going to be me. So then instead of being like scared that I had to do it, I was like really scared who it was going to be with. I was like, please just let it be someone I know, that we can like bounce off each other and like, you know, you just feel like a bit more like, maybe a bit more confident and a bit more safe if it's someone you know, because you're like, right, you've got my back, we can sort this and do it together. So it ended up being with Peter.
Yeah.
Which is great because we were quite good friends, so I was like, oh, it's going to be fine. And I just remember it being really silly. I can't remember what it was about.
Nor can I.
But as soon as we were like on the stage, I was like, oh, actually, this is just really funny. Like I kind of forgot about like the fact we were just making it up in front of people. I just kind of was like, right, it's just us two having a laugh. And like at the time, yeah, I thought this is going to be horrendous, going to erase this from my memory. But actually, it ended up being like one of my favourite moments, which is weird.
Oh, that's lovely. I have really fond memories of that as well. And actually, talking about it, it's sort of like made my heart feel all warm and stuff. Because yeah, I have like really fond memories of that improv because I too was absolutely petrified of the improv side of it, which is so weird because and it's very hypocritical because I'm now like really like a massive advocate for the improv.
I mean, these are like, in my head they used theatre moments, but they were more like social moments, like all of the amazing like boat trips we did. Like there were so many of those in the summer, and that was just like so fun. Like just loved those so much. And, like the beach trip that we did with everybody. Like there were quite a few like little parties and like days out, and like I don't know, like it was like a proper little family outing, and it felt like an extension of youth theatre, even though it was like outside of it and social. Like it felt like it helped everyone get even closer, which then can help with shows as well.
So what's different in your eyes from a normal friendship to a youth theatre friendship?
I think like a lot of it is just a totally safe space. But I always felt like that with youth theatre. Like we were all kind of in the same boat. Obviously, you've all got that shared interest to begin with. Like, the whole reason you're there is you're interested in theatre, which helps. But then it just felt like such a safe space. Like you could like make an idiot of yourself, do something really silly, and everyone would just be like, yeah, fine, and then they'd join in and do the same thing, and like it just felt like there was no judgment, and everyone kind of, it didn't matter how old you were, but everyone talked to everyone, and it was people that you wouldn't necessarily mix with like in school, because they might be like 3 school years below you, you'd never meet them. But then when you're in that environment, it was just like that, none of that mattered, none of the usual like school rules of like who you talk to, and like, oh, it's not cool to hang out with that person. Like none of that was ever a thing. It was just like we're all here together. Like let's just have fun.
And then if we go to your last show, like obviously we both left at the same time after Bugsy. And do you remember doing your speech? Do you remember the content of it? Do you remember any others?
Anything I said, I literally don't remember a thing. I remember us all going outside afterwards and using up like the leftover splurge from the splurge ones and having a massive fight.
Oh yeah.
And like, I think in the show I had to wear these like fake eyelashes and they just came off and I stuck to my cheek and was like splurge. And like, yeah, so I remember that. I don't really remember the speech. I remember everyone singing Wonderwall at the end. Yep. Yeah, who knows what we said. It's very strange. There was quite a few of us as well, I think. 5 of us.
Yeah, there's a lot of you.
So there was me, you, Sydney, Frankie and Muzz.
Yeah. Yeah, so like from the year before when it had like, just been Michael. Yeah. Go from like 1 to 5. It was like, oh.
Yeah. It was that, you know, I always say that Michael's the start of the kind of progression. I mean, within our era at least, of people staying all the way to the end, like, and notably staying all the way to the end. Like, so they're in their final show, and like it was a big deal when they left. And then your year, the year after, was like the first year where there'd been like a collective amount of people that were leaving, and it actually felt like an event. Like, whereas Hudson, it was like literally end of Eyam. It was him like rushing back and him just being in absolute floods of tears and everyone hugging him. Like, I remember literally like everyone hugging him at the same time. But like with you guys, I just remember this. It was this very strange feeling where like there were so many of you going. Well, sort of going, Sam.
So, what did you get up to post SIYT?
So, I went off to uni in Bath. So, I was doing a theatre production degree, which is essentially all elements of backstage theatre. So, stage management, costumes, set design and construction, lighting, sound, all the things that go on to make a show, apart from acting, basically. And that is something that I didn't know existed really before youth theatre. So from like helping backstage, I think a lot of us did it on shows we went in. We might help backstage or sell tickets or do makeup and help Trish out, things like that. And that kind of opened my eyes to like the fact that that's a real job, like people actually do that. So I got interested in that, went off to do that in Bath for 3 years. So I was mainly working on shows at uni for the acting course, so like they'd obviously do the acting side of it and we'd work alongside them and put the rest of the show together for them. But also when I was there I got to do some professional placements as well. So in my second year I did one at like a Black Box studio theatre in Bath, and it was a 3-show rep, which was crazy. I didn't know what to expect with that, but when you're doing sort of, you go in and it's a different show every night, it's the same actors, but you've got to change the whole set over, change all the costumes, and remember what you're doing from show to show. So that was really interesting. I think my first sort of step into professional theatre and seeing how all of that works. And then I did a 6 or 8 weeks, I can't remember, placement at the Dunmore Warehouse in Covent Garden as well in my third year, where I was basically, it was all pre-performance, so I was at the rehearsal period and it's my job to like prop the show, so I had to source all of the props.
Oh wow.
And that was mad because I've been used to working on like uni shows where you get a budget of like £200 to do the whole thing and you're like, okay. So you get really used to being a bit of a scavenger, like asking people for free or like trying to find them really cheap, and then obviously you go to like a big theatre in London and they're just like, yeah, go spend £700 on a bench, no big deal. That was really odd to me, but a really good experience, and also working with some people that are just like crazy good at what they do. So on that one I was working with the designer Bunny Christie, so she's like Olivier award winning, and she did the set for Curious Incident of Dog in the Nighttime.
Wow.
And she's done a few other big ones, but like, yeah, being able to work with someone like that when I'm just like a little uni student is a bit like, whoa. And then I think my third year was a bit crazy. I did like a uni show, went off on placement, was production managing another uni show at the same time from a distance. I went back to uni, was there for about a week, got the show up and running, and then I got asked to go on tour. So it was a tour for the Egg Theatre in Bath, which is children's theatre attached to the Theatre Royal. They basically needed 2 students to go on tour and like assist with stage management and lighting. But it would count towards like our degree as well. So they were like, well, you can stay and you can do another uni show if you want, or you can go on this tour. And they sort of, a few people from our uni course went for it, and I got offered it. It was amazing. So I went out on tour, which was crazy. Like, I didn't expect to get to do anything like that whilst I was still at uni, or so quickly. So we went, where did we go? We did Bath, Leeds, Cardiff, and Belfast.
Wow.
And we also did lots of community shows. So we went into lots of really small community halls and did like a scaled down version of the show to people that wouldn't necessarily be able to access theatre because of their community or maybe like their wealth. And, theatres are pricey, so there's all these kids that have never been to a theatre before and were just like, what is this? Like, they were just, they'd get up in the middle of the show and just get on the stage because they didn't know that wasn't allowed. It was actually amazing to see, and like it was something just really different and really fulfilling. Like, a paid audience sit there and behave and like clap along, but when you've got these kids that are genuinely just like, wow, what is this? And like at the same time, you're like, don't break anything. But it's really like nice to see as well, like to see that spark in them go like, oh, like this is fun, what's this? So yeah, I did that, and also wrote my dissertation at the same time. So I wrote that whilst I was on tour, which
jeez.
And like my dissertation probably suffered for it a little bit, if I'm honest. But in my head, I was like, well, after uni, nobody's going to say to me, what did you get in your dissertation? But they are going to say, what experience have you got? So if I can say, like, oh, I've done this tour, like, that's going to get me a lot further than a great dissertation.
Yeah.
I think actually one of the first things I ended up doing was I got asked to go and work at Glastonbury.
Sweet.
Like, I think 2 weeks before. So a lady that I'd worked with on the tour that I did is the artist liaison manager for one of the stages. So I think I was actually at like my summer ball, like slightly intoxicated, and my friend was like, "You've got to check your phone now because they've done the tour with me." And I was like, "Why? And we just had this text like, "Want to come to Glastonbury? Like, space is yours." So I went up and did that, which it's not theatre, I know, but it's not like the same sort of skills as stage management. I was sort of working with the artists backstage and making sure they were happy, that they had everything they needed in their dressing rooms, and then off having fun for the rest of the time. And I've done that every year since now as well.
How much of an impact did it have on your career path?
It started it really. As I said, I didn't know that was a thing. Like, it sounds really stupid, like, but you go and watch a show and you don't really think about it. And then when I started helping backstage at Ives, I was like, oh, of course there's someone doing the lighting or like making the costumes. I didn't just appear from nowhere. But I think I got really interested in stage management. That was sort of my thing that I did. And with like that's quite an unseen role, like to do it from an audience perspective. Like if you're doing your job properly as a stage manager, nobody should know you're there. So that was something that I just never really knew it was a thing. And so Ives Theatre prompted me to look into that, and obviously I ended up going off and doing it. And I carried it on for a few years after uni as well, so started to get a few jobs. I mainly worked in Bath for the Egg, the children's theatre that I did the tour with. There's so many different elements to making a show happen. Like, of course, the actors are very important. Like, people are going to see people on stage. There weren't any actors, but they can't do it by themselves. And I think, like, anyone that's even people at youth theatre now, if you don't get a part in the show, or like, I would say like you have the opportunity to do anything backstage, or even like selling tickets, like box office, anything. Just give it a go, because you might not ever do it again, you might hate it, but it gives you an understanding of like what's going on around you. And I found that from having like the youth theatre background, even working backstage, I had an understanding of what the actors were going through and what they needed from the show as well. It kind of works both ways. Like you try and understand what everyone else needs and how you can fit together and how you can help each other. Like it's just going to make the whole thing more successful. There's a lot of merging going on in the industry, especially in smaller scale shows. So the more versatile you can be, like the better. Sure.
I think this is perhaps a good time to start talking about the industry that you experienced and things that are currently happening. Like, so obviously we've just had the 1.57 billion bailout for theatres, and well, that's not just for theatres, it's for the whole arts sector, so libraries, everything that kind of goes along with the creative kind of side of things, movies, etc. Because like from what you just said, obviously you worked with Egg and the touring company, and they did a lot of potentially smaller shows and stuff, and I watched a conversation this morning about they were saying about how theatre is still sort of portrayed as this kind of elitist thing that is very difficult for a lot of people to kind of relate to and kind of get on board with. That's why it potentially was left for so long during this lockdown period without any kind of acknowledgement of the fact that it was literally falling to pieces. But the thing is, you've got, I've also worked for touring theatre, TIE, theatre and education stuff at companies, and the funding isn't there for the schools to pay, 400 quid to have a show come in, and, as an interesting way of learning for the kids. And they love it when they do. All the schools I got to go to and go to performing, they absolutely love it. But, I know, for example, that the company used to have a company manager that went out with all the tours. Each tour, it had a company manager that didn't act, just went out and made sure everything was working and tech, and sorted out everything. And they don't have that anymore. The cast have to do that role as well as set everything up, tech, etc. So it's like this double-bladed sword is how can you make it more accessible for people by stripping away all the funding that because then you're making it far less accessible. So many schools now aren't able to bring in theatre companies.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of kids, like, I don't know about you guys and what your experiences were as kids, but that's how I got to know theatre. Like, you might do a little school trip somewhere, or you'd have people come in, or like do drama workshops at school. And I think not even if you're not that interested in getting into it, I think from a confidence thing, it's like I was really shy as a child, and drama definitely helped with that. And just having the opportunity to get involved with little things like that along the way when you're quite young, I think is so important. People are going to argue like, oh yeah, it's not as important as the academic stuff. And it's like, well, I've used theatre skills in my life a lot more than I've used maths, if I'm honest. So like, it's all important.
Absolutely. I mean, and not just even important, it's all part of our mental well-being. Try going a week without TV, books, films, theatre, any kind of streaming service, YouTube, because a lot of the content on there is kind of creative and artsy. So like literally, like pretty much music, anything you kind of enjoy, it's all locked into that, into the arts, and it is also important.
Is there any advice to current members?
Just get involved. Like, don't be scared of people judging you, because they won't. Not like that was my experience anyway, and I'm sure it's the same now, because it's that environment that you create to like protect each other. Just give it a go. If it doesn't work, you haven't lost anything. You're like, well, and yeah, just don't be afraid of like failing, I think, is a thing, or of people perceiving you as a failure, because ultimately you've got to do what you want to do. I remember even back at school when you have to apply for UCAS, and you've got like teachers breathing down your neck, being like, what are you going to do? What are you going to with so many people, both from school or like in my personal life, that told me I shouldn't do it. They're like, oh, go and do something like more academic, you know, you can do it, you've got the brains for it, go and do this. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't think that, I think you really have to stick to what you want to do, because at that age, well, some people know, they're the lucky ones, you know, that know and they stick to a career for their whole life, good for them. But most people do not do that. And there's nothing wrong with changing your mind. Like, most people I know have a degree and are not working in an industry related to their degree. If something's not for you anymore, then like, move on. That's fine. I think like our generation is going to gear more towards that. I mean, sort of older generations, you do meet people that have been in the same job for like 50 years because that's what they knew. But for us, there's so many more options and so many, like, I don't know, I think we're taught more how to pick up on like transferable skills and how we can move that around. It's quite brave sometimes, like not go along with what your friends are doing or like what other people want you to do, and just be like, no, that's not for me. I'm not going to do it. Like, that's it. Because I wouldn't have said that when I was younger, but it's something that I definitely like got used to doing. It's just like thinking about what's right for you.
Thank you very much, Gemma. Really appreciate you talking to us. And actually fascinating, isn't it, Peter? You share about the industry and whatnot. So thank you so much.
I feel like that's very brief, but like, yeah, if anyone in youth theatre is thinking about backstage things and has questions, they can ping them over to me or to you.
Then to you. Right. Thank you, Gemma. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.